I found out my wife was cheating because a stranger wanted likes. It was a Thursday night, a little after 9. I was in the den half watching a baseball game with my laptop open, answering emails I didn't want to deal with until morning. Lauren was in Las Vegas for a tech expo, the kind of polished corporate circus she used to complain about before her promotion taught her how to smile through things she hated. My phone buzzed with a message from an old college friend. No text, just a link. When I opened it, I saw Lauren before I even understood what I was looking at. She was standing in front of some glowing company display, badge around her neck, drink in one hand, head tilted toward a guy I recognized from one of her office holiday photos. Ryan, same easy grin, same expensive haircut. He had one arm tucked behind her back like it belonged there. Lauren was laughing, not the polite social laugh she used at neighborhood dinners, but the real one, the loose one, the one I hadn't heard much at home in months. The caption under the post said, "My real better half red heart hashtag office husband." It already had thousands of likes. For a few seconds, I just stared at it. The room stayed perfectly still around me. The game kept playing. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen. Somewhere outside, a sprinkler clicked across the lawn in slow, even bursts. Everything in my house sounded normal, and that was the worst part. Normal sound over a life that had just split open. I checked the account that posted it. Some woman from her office. Tara. I knew the name because Lauren had mentioned her enough times for me to remember. Funny, loud, a little too much, Lauren used to say, though now I wasn't sure that had ever been true. I clicked through the photos in the expo album. Lauren and Ryan at a booth. Lauren and Ryan at a restaurant bar. Lauren and Ryan in a group shot, standing close enough that everyone else looked accidental. Then a short video, 6 seconds. Ryan saying something into Lauren's ear while she touched his chest and looked down like she was trying not to blush. That was when the cold set in. Not anger. Not yet. Just clarity. I took screenshots of everything. The caption. The comments. The usernames. The timestamps. I saved the post, downloaded the video, and emailed copies to myself from an address Lauren didn't know existed. Then I checked the company page, the event tags, every public photo tied to the expo. I didn't call her. I didn't text. At 9:17, my phone lit up with her name. Long day. Her message said, "Miss you. Might crash early." I looked at the screen for a long time before setting the phone face down on the desk. Then I took one more screenshot. Lauren came home the next afternoon with a silver carry-on in one hand, and that tired airport expression people wear when they want credit for being exhausted. Her heels clicked across the hardwood, light and familiar, and for a moment it felt almost theatrical, like I was watching someone step back onto a stage after missing a cue. I was in the kitchen finishing coffee I didn't want. The separation papers were already on the island, squared neatly beside the fruit bowl, held in place by the ceramic salt cellar Lauren bought on a trip to Santa Fe. I had set them there 10 minutes earlier, and then gone back to rinsing dirt off a screwdriver from the garage sink. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey," she said, "you're home early." I nodded once. Her eyes dropped to the stack of papers. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at. I watched the confusion move across her face in pieces. The smile faded. Her shoulders tightened. She stepped closer, set the suitcase down slowly, and touched the top page with 2 fingers like it might stain her. "What is this?" I dried my hands on a dish towel. "Read it." She looked up at me, waiting for something louder, some sign that this was a bluff, a fight, a bad joke stretched too far. I gave her nothing. That seemed to bother her more than anything. She flipped through the first 2 pages. I could see the color leaving her face. "Ethan, what the hell is this?" Separation papers. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Because of a post? I didn't answer. She let out one sharp laugh, thin and disbelieving. "You cannot be serious." I folded the towel and set it beside the sink. Through the back window, I could see the sprinkler line near the west fence still throwing water in the wrong direction, misting the hedge instead of the lawn. I'd noticed it that morning. Broken head. Probably cracked at the base. "I need to fix the sprinkler before the ground gets too soft," I said. She stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. Ethan. I picked up the small toolbox from the chair by the mudroom door. You can read everything while I'm outside. That was when her voice changed. Less outrage, more caution. You're really doing this right now? I looked at her, really looked at her, at the airport makeup trying to hide a sleepless face, at the pressed blouse, at the wedding ring still on her hand, as if that meant anything by itself. I'm doing it now because now is when I know. Then I stepped out onto the patio. The late afternoon sun was low and hot, turning the wet grass gold at the edges. I knelt by the valve box and pressed my fingers into the damp soil, already thinking ahead. Lawyer, accounts, copies, timelines. Whatever Lauren said next mattered less than what she'd already done. Behind me, through the screen door, I heard the first page hit the floor. She didn't come outside right away. I adjusted the sprinkler head slowly, unscrewing it, clearing out the grit packed into threads. The water line hissed softly beneath my fingers, steady and predictable. It gave me something to focus on that made sense. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Lauren. I let it ring twice before answering. Ethan, what is this? Her voice was tight, but there was something underneath it, controlled, rehearsed. You're seriously filing separation papers over a social media post? I wiped my hands on my jeans and leaned back on my heels. Did you read all of it? Yes, I read it, she snapped. Then, softer. This is insane. I didn't respond. She exhaled sharply on the other end. I could picture her pacing the kitchen now, one hand in her hair, the other gripping her phone. It was a joke, she said. Tara posted that. That's literally her sense of humor. It's this whole corporate culture thing, like office husband, work wife. People say it all the time. I turned the sprinkler head back into place, tightening it carefully. A joke, I repeated. Yes, she said quickly, relief creeping into her voice like she thought she was gaining ground. Exactly. It was nothing. We were all drinking, networking, taking pictures. You know how these events are. I let a few seconds pass. You look comfortable, I said. Silence. Then she laughed again, but it didn't land this time. What does that even mean? In the video, I said, you look comfortable. Another pause, longer now. It's 6 seconds, Ethan, she said, and I could hear the edge returning. You're reading into something that isn't there. I stood up, brushing dirt from my hands, and turned the valve slightly. The sprinkler shifted, correcting its angle, finally watering the grass instead of the hedge. You didn't tell me about him, I said. Because there's nothing to tell, she shot back. He's a coworker. That's it. I didn't argue, didn't push, didn't raise my voice. That's when her tone changed again. Why aren't you saying anything? She asked. I walked a few steps across the lawn, watching the water settle evenly now, soaking into the ground. What do you want me to say? I want you to act like a normal person, she said, frustration breaking through. Be mad. Yo, do something. The silence thing, it's weird. I almost smiled. I am doing something, I said. She didn't answer. For the first time since the call started, she had nothing ready. I glanced back at the house. Through the glass door, I could see the paper still spread across the kitchen island. One page slightly out of line now. Read page 4 again, I said. What? Page 4, I repeated, about financial disclosures. A long pause. Why? Just read it. I ended the call before she could ask anything else. Then I turned back to the sprinkler, making a small adjustment, just enough to make sure everything was aligned exactly where it needed to be. Lauren didn't come outside until the sun had already dropped behind the fence line. I heard the door slide open behind me, but I didn't turn around. The sprinkler clicked through its cycle, steady now, controlled. The air smelled like wet grass and cooling concrete. You've been planning this, she said. Not a question. I shut off the water and stood up slowly, brushing dirt from my hands again, even though they were already clean. How long? She asked. I picked up the toolbox. Long enough. She stepped closer. I could feel it without looking. The tension in her breathing. The shift from irritation to something sharper. Something closer to fear. This isn't about a post, she said. You don't just have legal paperwork ready like this because of one picture. I turned then. No, I said, I don't. Her eyes searched my face, trying to find something unstable, something emotional she could grab onto and pull apart. There was nothing there for her to use. So what, you've just been what? Waiting for a reason, she asked. Watching, I corrected. That word landed. She folded her arms, but it wasn't defensive. It was containment. Watching what? I set the toolbox down on the patio table and leaned against it slightly. Expenses, I said. Mostly. She blinked. What? Charges that didn't line up? I continued, calm, even, small at first, then less small. Her expression flickered, just for a second, but it was enough. I handle our finances, Lauren, I said. You know that. That doesn't mean anything, she snapped. We both spend money. Not like that. Silence. I let it sit there between us. You started using different cards. I went on. Ones you didn't normally use. Timing changed, too. Transactions late at night, in places that didn't match your schedule. That's normal, she said quickly. Too quickly. Travel, dinners, clients. You expense some of them. I cut in, but not all. That stopped her. I watched the realization begin. Not full understanding yet. Just the first crack. I separated the accounts 3 months ago. I said. Her head snapped up. You did what? Quietly, I added. You didn't notice. That's not possible, she said, but her voice had dropped now. Less certain. It is if you're not looking. I walked past her, opening the patio door, gesturing toward the kitchen. Page for, I said again. She didn't move at first. Then slowly, like her body was catching up to something her mind didn't want to accept, she turned and went inside. I followed at a distance. She picked up the papers with unsteady hands, flipping faster this time until she found it. I watched her eyes scan the paragraph, then stop, then go back and read it again. What is this? She whispered. Disclosure, I said. Assets already moved. She looked at me, and now it was there. Not anger, not denial. Fear. You can't just move money like that, she said. I didn't just do anything, I replied. It's been structured for a while. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I stepped closer, just enough that she had to look at me fully. I didn't think it was just cheating, I said quietly. I thought it might be worse. The room went completely still, and I don't like being wrong about things like that. The package arrived 2 days later. No return address. Plain brown cardboard. Left on the front step, like it didn't matter who saw it. I got home just before sunset. Lauren's car was already in the driveway, parked slightly off-center, like she hadn't been thinking when she pulled in. That had started happening more often. Small things slipping. I picked up the box, weighed it in my hands. Light, controlled. Inside, Lauren was in the kitchen, sitting at the island where the papers still rested, now slightly bent at the corners. She looked up and I walked in, eyes tired, movement slower. We need to talk, she said. Not yet, I replied. I set the box down in front of her. She frowned. What is that? I don't know, I said. Let's find out. For a second, neither of us moved. Then I slid a knife across the counter toward her. She hesitated before picking it up. The sound of tape splitting was louder than it should have been. Inside, there was no note, just a stack of printed photos and a folded set of documents held together with a black clip. Lauren pulled the photos out first. I watched her face change. First confusion, then recognition, then something else, something deeper. The first photo showed the lobby of a hotel. Timestamp in the corner. Lauren at the front desk. Ryan standing just behind her, close enough that his hand almost touched her lower back. She dropped that one and grabbed the next. Elevator camera. Same night, different angle. His hand wasn't almost touching anymore. Ethan, she whispered. I said nothing. She flipped faster now. Hallway stills. A door. Room number visible. Then one of them leaving the next morning. Lauren wearing the same dress from the expo. Ryan in a different shirt. Her breathing changed. This isn't, she started, but the sentence collapsed halfway through. I reached past her, and picked up the clipped documents. Hotel receipts, multiple dates, different cities. Team retreat, I said quietly. Chicago, Austin, Seattle. Her hands trembled slightly as she grabbed one of the pages. This doesn't mean anything, she said, but her voice had lost structure now. It didn't land the way she wanted it to. It means consistency, I replied. She shook her head, stepping back from the counter like distance would help. No, this is insane. Is it? She didn't answer. I placed one of the receipts flat on the counter between us and tapped the date. 3 months ago, I said. You told me that trip got extended because of a client issue. Her silence stretched. Then I added, there was no client meeting that day. Her eyes snapped to mine. That was the moment it settled in for her. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This wasn't about a post. This was a pattern, a timeline, a structure she hadn't realized was being built around her. Who sent this? She asked. I met her gaze without blinking. That's not the important question. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I gathered the photos neatly, aligning them into a stack again. The important question, I said, is how much of this you were planning to never tell me. The room stayed completely silent. And for the first time since she walked in the door 2 days ago, Lauren didn't try to explain. Lauren barely slept that night. I could hear it in the way she moved upstairs. The pacing, the stops, the silence that stretched too long between footsteps. At one point, around 2 a.m., the bedroom light flicked on, then off again 10 minutes later. I stayed downstairs. Laptop open, screen dimmed, documents lined up in folders that didn't exist a week ago. By morning, everything was already in motion. Lauren came down just after 7, hair pulled back too tightly, face pale but composed in that deliberate way she used when she needed control. We need to figure this out, she said. I nodded once, not looking up from the screen. We will. She hesitated. Did you send those? The photos? No. She studied me, searching for cracks again. Then who would? I don't know, I said, and that part was true. She exhaled slowly, gripping the back of a chair. Okay. Then we handle it together. We just contain it. Contain it. I almost appreciated the choice of word. That might be difficult, I said. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Why? I clicked something on the laptop, then finally looked up at her. Because it's not contained. She froze. What does that mean? I closed the laptop gently and stood. Your company has a compliance department. I said, you've mentioned them before. Her expression shifted instantly. Yeah, so? They handle internal investigations, ethics violations, misuse of resources. Ethan, I sent them a report. The words landed clean, precise. For a second, she didn't react at all. Then, you did what? I held her gaze. Anonymous submission, timeline, supporting documentation, expense inconsistencies, travel overlaps. Her face drained of color. You can't do that, she said, but her voice had already lost strength. I already did. Do you have any idea what that means? She asked, stepping closer now, panic starting to break through. That triggers audits, reviews. People lose their jobs over things like that. I know. You're blowing this out of proportion, she snapped. This is personal. Ethan, you don't drag my entire company into this. I tilted my head, slightly. You already did that. Silence. Her breathing got sharper. This was between us, she said, but now it sounded like she was trying to convince herself. Was it? I asked. She opened her mouth, then stopped, because now she was seeing it. The trips, the expenses, the pattern. Not just inappropriate, not just personal, documented, traceable, professional. Her hand moved her forehead. Oh my God! They'll start quietly, I said. Internal review first, then escalation if they find enough. You don't know that, she whispered. I do. She looked at me then, not angry, not defensive, afraid. Ethan, please, she said, softer now. You can stop this. Just tell them it was a mistake, that you misunderstood. No, That word ended it. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the person standing in front of her anymore. And maybe she didn't, because the version of me she understood would have argued, would have shouted, would have tried to fix it. This version didn't. I'm not trying to destroy anything, I said calmly. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. Then what are you doing? I held her gaze. I'm letting things continue. Outside, the sprinkler clicked on again, right on schedule. This time, it didn't miss a single inch. 3 days later, Lauren flew to Chicago. She didn't tell me at first. I saw the flight confirmation on her email preview when her phone lit up on the counter. Mandatory leadership alignment meeting. Short notice. Executive level attendance. That wasn't normal. She left early that morning in a navy suit I hadn't seen in months. Structured, sharp, armor. At the door, she paused like she wanted to say something. Ethan, I didn't look up from my coffee. She waited, then she left. The call came at 11:42 a.m. I didn't answer the first time. The second time I did. Her breathing hit the line before her voice did. Ethan, there was noise behind her. Not office noise. Bigger, echoing. Voices layered over each other. Movement. Where are you? I asked. At the office, she said, but it came out uneven. Chicago. This isn't. She stopped, like the words didn't line up anymore. What happened? I asked. They called all hands, she said. Not just leadership. Everyone. Main conference hall. I leaned back in the chair slowly. That's efficient. She ignored that. They started with announcements, she continued, voice shaking now. Quarterly numbers. Expansion plans. Normal things. Then a pause. And then they said there was a compliance matter. I didn't interrupt. They brought up a presentation, she said. Slides. Documentation. Her breathing got sharper. They said it involved misuse of company funds tied to travel expenses. I closed my eyes briefly. There it was. They didn't say my name at first, she whispered. They just showed patterns. Dates. Transactions. Locations. I could hear it now. The moment replaying in her head. Slow. Controlled. Public. And then they showed photos. Silence stretched between us. Lauren, I said quietly. Her voice broke, just slightly. Everyone was there. I pictured it. Hundreds of people. Screens lit up. No room to hide. No one said anything, she continued. It was just quiet, like everyone was trying to process it at the same time. And Ryan, I asked, that landed harder than anything else. A sharp inhale. She stopped. What did he do? Another pause. Then smaller, he said he wasn't aware of any policy violations. I didn't say anything. He said the expenses were submitted through my approvals, she added. Of course he did. And then they asked me to step forward. Her voice was barely holding now. I couldn't move at first, she said. I just stood there. I let the silence sit. They had everything, she whispered. The receipts, the timelines, the overlap. Even internal messages. I thought about the package, about whoever had sent it, about how far this had already gone before I ever touched it. They said I was suspended pending investigation, she said. And Ryan? A long pause. He's still in the room. That told me everything. She let out a shaky breath. I didn't know it would go this far, she said. I stood up slowly and walked to the window, looking out at the lawn. Perfectly even, perfectly watered. It didn't go far, I said. She went quiet. It just reached the surface. On the other end of the line, I could hear movement again, voices calling names, doors opening. Ethan, she said, softer now. I waited. Did you know this would happen? I thought about that for a second. Then I answered honestly. I knew it wouldn't stay hidden. The line stayed open for a moment longer. Then it went dead. Lauren didn't come home that night. Around 8 p.m., she sent a single message. Staying at a hotel. We'll talk tomorrow. No explanation. No attempt to control the narrative. Just distance. I didn't reply. The next morning, there was another package. Same box. Same tape. Same silence. This time, I didn't hesitate. Inside, There were fewer photos, but more documents. Printed emails, internal chat logs, screenshots of expense approvals, timestamps highlighted in yellow. Clean, organized, intentional. Whoever was sending this wasn't guessing. They were building something. At the bottom of the stack, there was finally a note. One line. She didn't think anyone was paying attention. No name, no signature. But it changed everything. Lauren walked in just after noon. No suitcase this time. Just her phone in her hand, like it was the only thing keeping her connected to something stable. Her eyes went straight to the table. "You got another one," she said. I nodded. She stepped closer, slower than before. "What is this?" she asked. But her voice didn't carry the same denial anymore. It was quieter, careful. "Documentation," I said. She picked up one of the pages. Her fingers tightened. "No," she whispered. I watched her scan the screen. Internal messages between her and Ryan. Then another page. Then another. Her breathing changed again. "This isn't from outside," she said. "No." Her head lifted slowly, like the realization was heavy. "This is internal." I didn't respond. She stepped back from the table, like it might burn her. "Someone at the company did this," she said. "Yes." Her mind started moving faster now. I could see it in her eyes. "Not compliance," she muttered. "They wouldn't leak this. Not like this." "No." She turned, pacing once across the kitchen. "Then who?" she asked, more to herself than to me. "Who would even have access to?" She stopped, completely still. I saw the moment it hit. Her posture changed. Subtle, but final. "No," she said again, but this time it wasn't denial. It was recognition. "Who?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was different. Lower, tighter. "Emily." I didn't know the name. "Who's that?" She swallowed. "Junior analyst," she said. "On my team." I waited. Lauren let out a slow breath, like she was pulling something up from a place she didn't want to look at. "I wrote her up 6 months ago," she said. "Publicly. In a meeting." "For what?" "Reporting errors." Lauren replied quickly. I didn't say anything. She looked at me, and for the first time since this started, she hesitated. And she added quieter, "for professional conduct." I tilted my head slightly. "What does that mean?" Lauren looked away. She questioned some expense reports, she said. Silence settled in the room. "And you shut her down," I said. Lauren didn't respond. She didn't need to. I looked down at the documents again. Careful timestamps. Internal access. Consistent tracking. This was a revenge built in a moment. This was patience. "She's been collecting this for a while," I said. Lauren's shoulders dropped slightly. "Yeah." Another silence. Longer this time. Then she whispered, almost to herself. I thought she was just annoying. I picked up the note again, reading the single line one more time. She didn't think anyone was paying attention. I set it back down. She was wrong, I said. Lauren didn't argue, because now she understood exactly who had been watching her. Lauren didn't move for a long time. She stood there in the kitchen, one hand resting on the edge of the counter, the other still holding a page she wasn't reading anymore. The house was quiet in a way that felt different now. Not calm, not neutral. Final. "Emily," she said again, like the name didn't fit in her mouth anymore. I watched her without interrupting. "She was nothing," Lauren added, but there was no conviction behind it, just habit. I leaned back slightly against the chair. "No," I said. She was paying attention. That landed harder than anything else. Lauren's shoulders dropped. For a second, it looked like she might sit down. Instead, she straightened, forcing herself back into control. "We can fix this," she said. I didn't respond. She stepped closer. "Listen to me, Ethan. This is bad, but it's not over." Her voice picked up speed, trying to outrun reality. "I can talk to legal. I can explain the expense reports. Companies don't want scandals. They contain them. They settle things quietly." I let her finish. "And us," she added quickly. "We don't have to. This doesn't have to end like this." I looked at her. really looked. This wasn't regret. This was damage control. You're not trying to fix us, I said calmly. You're trying to survive this. She flinched. That's not fair. It's accurate. Her jaw tightened. So what? You just destroy everything and walk away. I didn't destroy anything, I said. I documented it. That's the same thing, she snapped. No, I replied evenly. It's not. Silence. Heavy this time. She looked at the papers again, then back at me. What happens now? She asked. I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out a thin folder. Clean. Labeled. I placed it on the table and slid it toward her. She didn't touch it immediately. What is that? She asked, quieter now. Everything that's already been filed. Her eyes flicked up to mine. What do you mean filed? Petition, I said. Asset division. Financial separation. Witness statements. Her face went still. Witnesses, she repeated. I nodded once. Timeline verification, I said. Professional and personal. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the scale anymore. You've been building a case against me, she said. I shook my head slightly. No, I said, I've been building a position. That difference mattered. You didn't even give me a chance, she whispered. I held her gaze. You had months. That ended it. She stepped back like something in her finally gave way. You're ruining my life, she said, but it came out hollow. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't move. Your life changed because of your decisions, I said. I just stopped protecting you from them. Her eyes filled this time, but the tears didn't fall. There was nothing left to argue, nothing left to reframe. She looked around the kitchen, the same place she had walked into days ago expecting normal, and now it felt like somewhere else entirely. So that's it? She asked. I nodded once. That's it. No anger, no hesitation, just an ending she couldn't move. Lauren moved out 3 days later. No arguments, no scenes, just quiet movement. 2 suitcases, a few boxes, clothes she chose quickly, like decisions didn't matter anymore. She didn't touch anything in the house that felt permanent. No photos, no shared things, just what she could carry. At the door, she stopped, not to apologize, not to explain, just paused. Ethan, she said. I was in the kitchen, exactly where I had been when this started. I didn't turn around. She waited a few seconds. Then she left. The door closed softly behind her, and that was it. The fallout didn't take long. Within a week, her suspension became termination, official language, neutral tone, violation of company policy, misuse of funds, breach of professional conduct. Ryan lasted a little longer, 2 weeks, then the same outcome, different wording, same result. No one defended them. No one needed to. The documentation did all the work. The divorce finalized faster than she expected. She didn't contest it, didn't try to fight the filings, didn't have anything left to negotiate with. The assets were already separated, the accounts already structured, the timeline already established. By the time it reached the end, it was just a formality. I sold the house a month later, not because I had to, because I wanted to. Too many echoes, too many versions of things that didn't exist anymore. I moved 30 minutes outside the city. Smaller place, quiet street, no neighbors close enough to matter. The first thing I did wasn't unpack. It was work. The landscaping business started simple. 1 truck, basic tools, early mornings, manual labor that didn't require explanations, didn't require conversations, just clear results. You cut something, you build something, you see the difference immediately. There's no confusion in that. Months passed, then more. Lauren disappeared the way people do when their world collapses quietly. No public breakdown, no dramatic ending, just absence. I heard things indirectly. New job, lower level, different city. No one from her old life following her there. It made sense. Some things don't survive exposure. One evening, late summer, I stood in a client's backyard finishing a job. Fresh lines in the grass, edges clean, water running exactly where it was supposed to. controlled, intentional. I turned off the system and watched it settle. Everything in place. No waste. No overflow. Exactly how it should be. People assumed this was revenge, that everything I did was leading to some moment, some payoff. It wasn't. I didn't need her to lose. I just needed control over what happened to me. That's all this ever was. Because in the end, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't chase answers. I didn't try to fix something that was already gone. I saw what was there. I prepared. And when the moment came, I acted quietly. And that was enough.